insurance companies that have sprung up everywhere are a bit of a scheme because the cars nowadays, I mean, if you take care of your car, you can expect it to last a lifetime with minimal repairs. I've got a car with well over 250,000 miles, just a Chevy, and it's got the original alternator on it. In fact, the serpentine belt was still fine. The original, unless somebody replaced it before 19,000 miles when I bought it. Original starter, a lot of original stuff. In fact, the headlights, tail lights, I've never replaced a tail light. Never. Not a brake light. Not a signal light. In fact, the headlights, until I changed the entire assembly and it came with new bulbs, I started blowing them right away. But luckily, I saved my bulbs from the headlight assembly, the old one, and it's still running on some of those old bulbs. And the headlights are on all the time. So that was my only thing. Hey, friends, I think it's a waste for the most part. It's like the lottery. I mean, sure, you can go out and spend a lot of money on lottery and you up your odds, but all that and all that. But I mean, it's only one out of millions that wins these things. So it's like, yeah, that's how insurance works. Even driving insurance. I mean, I got to pay for careless drivers out there, idiots, inexperienced drivers, reckless drivers. We're all paying. If you're paying car insurance and you're the last guy that's going to be at fault in some horrible accident because of how careful you drive and you take care of your equipment and all that, safety wise, brakes and tires and everything else. You don't want to break it down on the highway. That's dangerous too. But I was talking about that, and then I was talking about how these price of gases, they're taxing us. Inflation is a tax. Okay, when they raise the cost of living, it's stuff you can't get away from. Notice it never happens to stuff that we can take it or leave it. Like VCRs or TVs or something. It's always something where they got you by the throat. Gasoline, housing, food, right? And a lot of people are benefiting wildly. And it's coming out of your pocket and my pocket. And I should be okay with this? And we're saying, oh, it's because of the big bad Russians. And I'm like, but Canada offered to give us all the oil to compensate. So we didn't need to miss a beat with oil prices. And why would we export a drop of our oil at a time like this? But I think if you look it up, you're going to find that we still are. It's unbelievable. I mean, I remember just 21 years ago, 2001, right after 9/11, I had bought a house in Las Vegas, and I was commuting back and forth from Santa Cruz, California to Las Vegas. And I remember gasoline prices at these discount places was 89 cents. You might have found it for 87 somewhere else. 89 cents, just 21 years ago. Do you know what percent increase that is to where we're almost $8 an hour? We could keep it simple. Well, that would be an 8,000% increase, right? Oh, wait, no, 800% increase, I think, approximately. Yeah, yeah, because it'd be 1,000 if it went to $8 a gallon, or let's say $9 a gallon. So it roughly maybe is 750% increase in the price of gasoline in just 21 years. Could you imagine if that happened from right now in the next 21 years? What's your dollar going to be worth then? What would that mean? What would we be paying for gasoline if it went up another 700% from $6 a gallon, what we're paying in California approximately? 642. You'd be paying $42 a gallon for gas. Maybe cheaper in other parts of the country. Maybe you'd only be paying, I don't know, $32, $32.50 for a gallon of gas. That's what dollar's going to be worth if we keep going with this hyperinflation. And this is what I've been bitching and moaning about the whole time. That's why I set up this whole video series. I mean, I not only want to talk about Christ, how good God is and how we should trust in God only. We can't trust in man or this world system. That's for damn sure. I mean, that is the most important thing. But it's also about the social economic injustice and just trying to reconcile this with the public and myself and just say, how are we tolerating this? How are we accepting this? Whose back is this falling on? We're making more and more multimillionaires and more billionaires every day. And we're creating more and more desperately poor people. All those long-standing social welfare programs that are utterly failed from top to bottom, like this $50 billion a year we're spending on this Section 8 housing through HUD, the Housing and Urban Development, the Housing Authority. I mean, I'm radical to say, well, if they just bought people modestly priced houses because they're too poor to pay the rent on it, then we'd eventually be done with the problem. But the landlords would be up in arms because all that money now, that $50 billion every year, goes in their pockets. You understand? So we're feeding. The taxpayers are forced to feed the wealth imbalance. These gouge like gas prices, all this, what we see, chain reaction inflation, like I've talked about over and over again. One thing leads to another. Cause and effect, ripple effect. It's just, duh. It's child's play to understand this stuff. That's why I always resort to what is God's view. Keep it simple, stupid. A little kid can understand. It's God's planet. We're God's equally beloved children. And if you don't believe that, then you got a different God than I got. That's for sure. Because my God don't play favorites. And because it's written that God causes the sun to shine on the just and the unjust and the rain to fall. It's just a metaphor. The rain is not, we know it's not bad, but it's just a metaphor for something that's not pleasant. It makes the rain to fall on the just and the unjust alike. So we've got equal standing with God. We've got a whole hell of a lot more in common than out of common. Though we're all terminally unique, we are all extremely unique individuals. Nothing can change that. Science can prove that over and over. That is a blanket patent statement. I'll stand by. That's literal. We are very much individual. I mean, God's sake, if every single snowflake is, we are. But we've got to take the bull by the horns, friends, and just realize evil men would like to end up just more violence like we see. That's where we're going. We keep lifting the hand of protection that God has on us. But anybody that thinks this reparation thing is all cute for, well, we're going to pick and choose on the colors and you got to be the right color. I can't. For example, I'd probably be considered too white. So I got Indian. What about reparations for the Indians? Where's my cut of the casinos? And but you got to jump through hoops and all this crap. It's like, screw it. Screw freaking money lovers. I mean, they make me sick. They're liars. But, there's so much crap going on. They're going to create more animosity in this country, more divisiveness, more vitriol, more hatred, more racism is what they're doing. That's the name of the game. Remember, I've said it. It's pure evil genius. It's very powerful, very effective, just like money. The money is right in there. In this whole thing is always money. So what would God do? Would he pick and choose who to bless with the power and the greatness of having lots of money? Like we all know, it's so great to be rich, to be prosperous, wealthy, successful, right? Drive a really nice car, be extravagant, live the life of Riley. We go get it. God gets it. So you put yourself in God's position. What would you do? And all I ask is that you be honest. That's it. So you want to label me a Marxist, Google? I mean, maybe, I don't know, because I cited Google. Maybe that's why they censored me. But I mean, I'm just getting this from the information there. Okay, when I start reading stuff and people come up with this crap, I don't know who's coming up with it, but I am not authoritarian in the least bit, and I am not violent. I'll go so far as to use the P word. What's the P word? Pacifist, which in my mind means I hate violence. And when I say I'm a devout, zealous egalitarian, what that means is I'm relentless about my pursuit for justice, not for some, selectively, but for all, blanketly, across the board, universally. Fairness. That's all egalitarianism means to me, is fairness. It means doing things the way God wants them done. And I'm not talking religion at all. Forget it. You bring all the religious people in, bring all the believers in. whatever. And all the other non-believers, atheists, and agnostics get sucked in anyhow by default. I mean, if you're just into fairness, give yourself credit. I don't care. All I know is we're all great and we're all pathetic. And that goes for me too. So I don't need to take credit for nothing. I don't want to. There's no profit in that, to no avail. We're God's property completely, 100%. And it's only God to give glory to for our life, for our existence, for everything good we've ever enjoyed or ever will enjoy. Not to be blamed for anything bad, organic or inorganic. And we're all in this thing together. We're all stuck on this ship of fools physically. You can jump off in your heart and mind, but that's about it. Because, your spirit, you can say, you want to be somewhere else because I just feel it. I mean, they're making us. It's like the devil with the pitchfork. Making us pay for something we didn't do. Dragging us into hell. And they're forceful. They've got clout. When you've got money, you've got clout. I mean, some people are cushioned. They get cost of living adjustments when the cost of living goes up. They got people on their side looking after their interests. Where's the Federal Labor Department looking after the interests of the federal minimum wage worker? That could have prevented any inflation at all. In fact, you could have seen deflation whereby the federal minimum wage was 50 cents an hour today, but worth more than that dollar an hour in the early 60s. That dollar an hour, which, by the way, I lived during that time. I was a kid, but I paid attention. Could afford you a middle-class life. 25% of your income to pay the mortgage on your home. If you cleared around $200 a month on your minimum wage job, your federal minimum wage job, $50 or so would go to your mortgage. That's what was considered safe because you didn't want to overextend yourself and go into debt, right? Have to refinance and get a second mortgage. That was a big taboo. Don't do that. So could you imagine what the federal minimum wage would have to be in America? Everywhere. Remember, you got to take the most expensive city and set it there, and that would be the exemplar for everywhere else in the country. So let's take Manhattan. You just want to buy a comfortable home, an apartment, condominium, townhouse, whatever you want to call it, in Manhattan. All right? Just, the median price, whatever, two family, maybe, you want some room to grow, right? You want guests to feel comfortable to come and stay with you, right? So middle class, that would just be anybody. Anybody that held down a minimum wage job in Manhattan would afford that. What's wrong? Is that radical? Why is that unreasonable? That's the America I remember. When Trump said make America great again, that's what I heard. He was going to end homelessness because he said he was ashamed of it. He was mortified by homelessness in America like I am. It's how could this happen? We call ourselves the richest nation in the world, $30 trillion in debt, creating more and more desperate poverty every day. The jails are filled with poor people that committed their crime because of fear that was induced by evil men because they're creating the policies we're all forced to live under. And I'm supposed to get comfortable with this scene and say somehow it all makes sense. They make a law and they subtract a law and make a new law. It just gets worse and worse for people at the bottom rungs of the social economic ladder. And I'm just supposed to get comfortable with this. Don't worry about where it ends. I mean, just let it get worse and worse and worse. And as long as it doesn't affect you directly, you can't worry about other people. I mean, come on, that's a lost cause. I mean, give up. Give up, buddy, or we'll just keep on beating you till you do, till you say uncle, and you stop bitching and moaning about the plight of the downtrodden, the poor, other people's problems. That's what I'm feeling. It doesn't feel good. And, I got to talk about it. But I got to tell you, friends, the only hope I have is in the Lord. I mean, I ain't got nothing. Because I can get a bad attitude. Believe me, I can get a nasty attitude. Evil men can do that to me. When I see how they've been flourishing in the land, they keep getting their way year after year, decade after decade. And, historically, what's happened, when they push too hard and too far with the plebs, there's always been a bloody revolution. But I believe we're at a different era, a different time in history. Unprecedented, of course it is. Every day is unprecedented. But what I'm talking about is this thing in the last book of the book of Daniel, this whole return of Christ, whether it's a metaphor or literal, it doesn't matter. But the effects are going to be the same. God's will is going to be established on earth. Evil men are going down, but they're going to fight tooth and nail to the bitter end to cling on to their power. And where is their power? Where the throne of power, Satan's throne? It's through the money, the